In conversation with June Alice Reynold. June Alice Reynold was born in Portland, Oregon on April 11, 1952. A grandmother named her June. June was a professional library and teacher in public school for 40 years. Lyle Kent Series, of which Land Over Time is a featured book based on a life story and a real student who came to a library every day at Sherwood High School. June's father was a World War II veteran in the Navy as a radio electrician on the Pacific Front, mostly on the Solomon Island. He was soon promoted to other electrical projects. He also flew with airplanes pilots such as JFK's older brother, who passed away in the war. Sherwood, Oregon, United States is where June grew up and went to school as a farm girl and avid reader. At Sherwood School and Sherwood High School, nothing was taught about the history of our town. Fast forward to 1999, 30 years later, the Reynold family moved back to Sherwood. Jane became involved in the Sherwood Historical Society and she pieced the history of the town starting in 2001 with the help from the community. Every 6 years since then, she has produced a book, Volume 1, Volume 2, Addendum 1, and now Volume 3 about World War II. The Lyle Kent series also involved 21st century history, culture, legend, and daily lives of teen and their family in the Pacific Northwest. There are plenty of outdoor adventure in this series, along with many domestic antics, which is very funny. And on today's episode of Auto Interview, it's my joy, pleasure, excitement to have on the show today, June Reynold. How are you doing today, June? Lovely to have you on.
I'm doing great. It's becoming fall, so it's reading season for a lot of folks
Yeah.
out there, especially in the northern hemisphere. And
Mm.
I want to say hi to all the readers. Being a librarian, I've been a big supporter of reading and literacy and literature. And so, welcome to my world.
That's an amazing introduction, really. I love the sound of it. And thank you very much for coming on. Quite beautiful we're here. So, John, we are going to get into the nitty gritty of what inspired you to write Something in the Sky, which I must say it's a beautiful title for a book, and it's the first book in the Lane Kent series. But then, you've been a writer now for the past 63 years now, and that's quite impressive, even all alone for me. And you've published multiple titles aside from this book. Now, I wanted to ask you, what is your first creative spark as a writer? What is it that keeps you going, that fuels you in, especially in this long year of 63 years, which I think it's quite a journey? Tell us.
Well, when I was 10 years old, my mother had me write letters to people. And when I was writing the letters, I was actually kind of exposing how I felt, how I felt about other people,
Mm,
how and questioning how they felt, really. And so my writing has always been about explaining my life and explaining the lives of others in kind of the
mm,
human condition, like, well, all people have their ups and downs. How does this happen? How do we get back up? And so I explain things by showing things,
mm,
not telling people. I
mm.
don't I don't tell people. I just
Oh,
show things. And of course, storytelling is a great way to do that.
yeah, it is. Mm. That's an amazing answer to that question, really. That's a very beautiful one. Thank you. Thank you for mentioning. And now, just for the sake of new viewers, especially those in English literature who are just beginning to discover your writing for the first time, what are some of the themes? If you can give us some of the sneak peek into some of the themes or say subject lines, message, perhaps your mission, your goal towards writing this book, and what you aim to achieve with this story, the one imbibed in something in the sky.
Well, first of all, the the kernel of the book is actually based on a real person, a person I met in the library. And as I was writing his story, I started thinking, you know, he has he has a lot of like real fateful, like FATE things
Yeah.
happening to him. He's not. He has a plan. He thinks he has a way of life, and then he realizes, it's not going to work out. Something else is going to work out instead.
Mm.
And then he gets kind of barraged by other people's ideas or misconceptions,
Mm.
and you know, it's all part of fate that happens to him, no matter whether it's just his little baby brother doing something silly like unplugging the lamps,
Mm.
or whether it's a bully in school. All of
Mm.
those things add to the fate of life as we go through it.
Mm.
So after I got the first book done, I reflected on the fact that uh, Lyle Kent has all this fate going on.
Mm.
I thought, oh, well, what about the rest of his life? I mean, I can't just leave
Mm.
him hanging there. Um,
Yeah.
you know, it's not, the first book is circular. It reminds me of a Nikki Giovanni book, where it's very circular kind of thing. And I made it that
Mm.
way on purpose. And then I thought, but what about what happens next? What
Wow.
happens next? And so from Something in the Sky, I went to writing Land Over Time.
Hmm.
And it's all the things that happened in the first book are all, again, addressed in the second book, kind of
Mm.
after the fact. Why did that
Wow.
happen? How did that happen? That kind of thing. So
Mm.
that's what got me in the second book. And then in the third book, a couple of interesting mystical things happened
Mm.
in the second book that he could not understand. We try to make sense of our lives, and
Yeah.
sometimes things are kind of mystical legends, maybe, or something like that. And so that's what happened to Lyle. He actually got involved in a mystical experience. And then in the third book, in River of Wind, he actually lives out the entire
Wow.
mystical experience. So,
Wow. That's an amazing narration you've got in there. Quite a good
yeah.
one, an amazing, beautiful one, really. Thank you very much for sharing with us. Thank you. And you capture the voices of children and teens so well in your story. I wanted to ask you, what helped you understand them deeply enough to write with that kind of authenticity? And also, you choose to tell the story through the eyes of a writer. What drew you to that perspective, and how did it shape the way the story unfolded?
Well, having worked with young people from 5 years old to 18
Yeah.
for 40 years has something to do with it. I have taught kindergarten through
Oh.
12th grade. I've taught in a variety of situations, everything from a tree planting camp, um, where we were all camped out, to, a high school. I was always surprised that when I interviewed for a job, librarian job or a teaching job, I always got put in a high school because I always thought I should be in a grade school. But I ended up doing high school, and I went back to grade school. I did middle school. I did middle school and high school for a while. And so I've been immersed in children all my life. Plus, I have my own children. Plus, now I have my grandchildren. And so I'm pretty up to date on everything. Now, the Lyle Kent book, the whole series, it starts in 2008.
Mm,
and then goes through 4 years of Lyle Kent's high school career. So it's not like it's totally modern, but it is at the beginning of the 21st century, basically.
mm. Oh, wow. That's an amazing answer, really. And that's a beautiful story you've told. Thank you very much for sharing with us. I appreciate that. Very important. Very important.
Something in the Sky is the first one, and it
Mm,
actually starts in Phoenix, Arizona. Doesn't even
mm,
start in Oregon.
mm,
And through many unfortunate turns in life, talk about fate, the whole family had to move to Oregon. So here
wow.
you see Mount Hood, and you see the grandpa and Lyle and his little brother there.
Mm,
And Lyle is a very adventurous person. He likes to go out and walk around, see things, explore things,
mm,
and they're out in farm country.
mm,
Um, the grandpa has a vineyard and has been in the vineyard business for years and years. But
mm.
unfortunately, the vineyard has fallen apart. And thanks to the family, they get the vineyard back up and running. So that's all part of the story as well. And so Lyle ends up actually seeing something out in a field that is very, very strange. And he doesn't know what to make of it, but he investigates.
Wow.
And as he's investigating, he finds crack in the wall. Now,
No.
crack in the wall is an actual Native American legend from the Atfalati Indians of
Mm.
Oregon in our area where we live here.
Wow.
So this is pretty important. And um, I am a historian. I'm a local historian. So um, what I'm what I try to talk about and expose to people is the fact that there is a sense of time in history, but there's also a sense of place.
Mm.
And so how does place enter into the picture?
Mm.
And so Lyle is pretty much like me. He
Mm.
is looking at this place, trying to discover what's going on. And then he makes the mistake of telling his girlfriend. And
Oh.
this is by the senior year, he tells his girlfriend about his experience. And that's how River of Wind starts,
To be.
is because he tells the girlfriend about it, and she is incredibly interested in
Mm.
the whole legend. And so she bugs him about, let's go there. Let's go to the crack in the wall.
Mm.
Let's go through and all these things. And so they do. And at first, everything's pretty okay. But unfortunately, they find themselves in a totally different century. They actually meet some people, and the people kind of take them hostage in kind of a
Mm.
strange, nonviolent way, but still take them hostage, and they end up seeing the entire legend of Crack in the Wall. I won't give
Wow.
you the whole story, but there they are. And so to me, River of Wind is definitely the most exciting book of the entire series of books. Um, so by making a building block of these three books, we come to the climax of how they get out of this situation.
Mm.
Now, I did see Lyle, and of course, it's been a few years, a few decades, and Lyle is still writing.
Mm.
He's
Wow.
doing very well.
Interesting.
He has a lot of success,
Hmm.
and he actually was on his way to the Midwest to do some interviews because, like
Mm.
me, he is also well trained in um, newspaper reporting,
Wow.
and that's how I got into writing, was newspaper reporting. So
Mm.
um, he said, you know, um, as he was leaving, he said, you ought to tell the a little bit of the background about how
Wow.
all this happened. You've got these crazy stories, but
Yeah.
what was the real background? Um, and he said, if you think about the background and reflect upon it, you will find out that you will write more things. And he was right, because Lyle's lyrics
Mm.
ended up being kind of, well, what was the backstory behind all of this?
Mm.
And as I was writing the backstories, I realized that, oh, I had a couple of poems that would fit right into this
Ah.
entire montage.
Mm.
So the between the poetry and the backstory, Lyle's lyrics was developed.
Mm.
So that's how we got to the four building blocks of the Lyle Kent series.
Mm. That's an amazing one. That's a beautiful illustration you've got in there. I love the sound of it and the making of it quite interestingly. Thank you very much for sharing. Thank
I
you.
just had another thought too, Peter, and that is, writing is a journey.
It is.
It's always a journey. So for for all these years, going on this journey
Mm.
has been a very interesting thing, and I'm hoping that a lot of uh, teenagers and adults
Yeah.
will catch on to the whole montage of the journey that's here.
Mm. That's a good one, actually. I mean, it's a beautiful one, and I can really relate to you saying it's really a journey. Thank you for sharing. And I would like to ask you, because after something in the sky, you took Life's story further, a land over time, and then to River of Wind. Now, I wanted to ask you, how did you see his character evolving across those books? And what excites you most about exploring those next chapter on his journey as it progresses along time? And also, did you keep in touch with the real Lyle Kent? I'm not sure. I'm just curious.
Yeah, there. Well, it's interesting. There were events that
Hmm.
happened. I'm writing in real time by the time
Wow.
I get to the end, and it totally in real time. And um, I wanted to get in all the events that were actually taking place in our
Wow.
community. And a lot of the people that are in the book are real people. And there's the good, the bad, the ugly, the the confused, um, the ones that maybe see through things. And at the end of the book,
Mm.
um, people start sharing a little bit of what they have gone through, and that's even more interesting.
Mm.
It's Lyle realizes that he's not the only person who has gone through many mystical or magical
Yeah.
things that people don't understand, and then there's of course the people that do not understand, and
Mm.
of course they take their attitudes as well.
That's a good one. Thank you very much for sharing. I mean, I've enjoyed your answer to this question so far. They are so fun, so beautiful, and so awesome. So I want to say thank you once again for those lovely answers. Thank you. And I wanted to ask you, June, because You began your history series with Sherwood, a sense of time and place, and you carried it all the way through to Sherwood history, a sense of World War II and the home front. Now, looking back across those books, how did you see Sherwood's story unfolding? And what did you most want readers to understand about the town's journey through those years?
I guess I should start by telling you that I've been on the history journey
Yeah.
for the last 20 years.
Wow.
Um, when I came back to my hometown, remember, I grew up here.
Yeah.
And after being gone for 30 years, mostly around Oregon, it's not like I went to any place, but but still, um, when we were children at Sherwood grade school,
Mm,
we never learned anything about the history of our town.
mm,
And we know, and well, we learned a little bit about Oregon history, but not about our town.
mm.
So in 2001, when I started actually compiling the history, I found out that it was overwhelming. The
Wow.
history, the people in the last over 130 years that have come through our town,
Wow.
and how things have changed. It's really hard for me to deal with change
Mm,
because I actually have been here for most of my life, but at the same time, think of the changes before I was born. More and more changes.
mm.
So that's all kind of part of history and how we can learn from history. It has been, again, it's another journey, I would say.
Yeah.
Um, and it's a factual journey where you have to relate to people in interviews, where
Mm,
you have to scan through old newspapers. You have to go to
absolutely.
a million different museums and
Yeah.
libraries, and it's all factual. So it's a different compartment of your brain to write history. And so I'll get overwhelmed in writing 20 years worth of history for
Mm,
maybe 6 years. I write each of these books has been a compilation of 6 years of work. So
wow.
this is the last one. This is
I love
the
this.
one that's I just published last year at this time. So
Wow.
this is 6 years of work. The one before that was 6 years of work. So
Wow.
that's, so when
That's
I
impressive.
get to the point where I finally finish a history book, I go, I got to do a fiction book. I have to get out of this world of fact, fact, fact,
Mm,
fact,
and there's something on
and
fact.
do something
Mm,
a little more. And
mm,
and I use the history, but it's it is fiction. It's
mm,
not fact. So
mm.
there's the two sides, the two different parts of the brain working to um,
The
divide one part
timelines.
of the brain from the other.
Absolutely. That's a beautiful one. I'd like you to show the cover, the one you recently raised. I'd like you to show it again to the camera. I cited something
Okay.
like 1941 to 1943. What exactly is that in the middle of the book cover? Would you like to talk about
Okay.
that? There is volume 3, 1940 to 1949. What does that mean? I would love the
Okay.
explanation of that.
This span of time, it is interesting. This span of time is American involvement in World War II.
Okay.
So it gives you a background about the home front. We
Mm,
talk about the European front of World War II, which was a lot longer and expansive and everything like that. And then we
mm,
talk about the Pacific front, Now, my father was in the Pacific Front. He was on the Solomon Islands. Um,
Mm.
and uh, one of the things that this book shows you is that here in Oregon, in the Pacific Northwest,
Yeah.
our home front was really close to the Pacific Front in a lot of
Oh,
ways.
oh,
There were Japanese planes that crashed into the coastline.
mm.
There were Japanese bombs that were made out of paper mache and floated on the
Wow.
oceans. You know, all that kind
Okay.
of stuff. They thought at one time that I'm also an expert on a lighthouse over on the coast
Mm.
called the Heceta Head Lighthouse. And during World War II, they had hundreds of German shepherds stationed
Mm.
at the lighthouse because they were afraid that the Japanese were going to do a big offensive like D-Day
Oh,
at Heceta Head.
oh.
And so it didn't happen, but it could have. And that's another whole story right there. Um, so you're talking about here in this book, you're talking about the men who went to war, and then you're talking about the home front, and that is all of the women who had to take the men's jobs, not only in the steel yards, but also on the farms. They were called farmerettes.
Wow.
And and all the blood drives, the metal drives, um, watching for Japanese planes. They had people that were watching that were called bird watchers, and they knew all the different types of planes. They studied them, and they knew when a plane flew over what kind of a plane it was.
Wow.
All the people in Sherwood were literally fighting World War II with the jobs that they did. They had
Wow.
sirens. The sirens would go off. People knew that on October 31st, which was Halloween, that the sirens would go off because that was the test siren. And so
Mm.
everybody knew that that was happening. Um,
Wow.
so yeah, it was a really big deal, not only in the war, but at home too, on what we called the home front.
It's an heavy answer you provided. Quite interesting, voluminous, that I'm having to look into it again, digest it, break it down. I took some notes that I'm gonna get back to later on, quite interestingly. So thank you very much for sharing and going a bit deeper into that particular story. I love the sound of it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and now just apart from the books we've mentioned so far, Lights, Lyrics, River Wayne, Sky, the beautiful ones you have over there in the background, do you have any other works you've authored or say currently working on?
Right now, I am working on a short story book.
Mm,
I love short stories, and many adults in America
yeah,
love short stories. I'm
mhm,
sure that that's true worldwide. Um,
absolutely.
you know, it's kind of an extension of myths and legends in a way, but
Mm,
they're more current myths and legends. And so I'm a real big fan of short stories. And so I'm writing the third book in a series of short story books
mm,
uh, that relate to Oregon, actually.
oh,
I have one called Oregon Tears, and then I have one that's called, oh, it has a long name. It's called Overcast with
overcast with sun
Sunbreaks.
breaks. Stories and poems. Wow.
Yeah, and it's a short story, and of course, during or Overcast for sun with Sunbreaks, that was my COVID book
Oh,
during COVID.
wow.
So I
Oh,
wrote this all during COVID,
wow.
and now I'm writing one that's called Oregon Rain, and it's more to do with a lot of it has to do with seasons and climate and what causes all the climate events and
Mm.
things like that. This is one I don't know if a lot of people would be interested, but I also have a desert series because the
Wow.
last 10 years I've been wintering in Tucson, Arizona, which
Hmm.
is totally different than Oregon in every
Wow.
aspect of life. And I love the contrasts. And so I started writing short story books about the desert. And
Hmm.
someday I will get back to that, but right now it's I'm writing them about Oregon.
That's a beautiful one, actually. I love the sound of your books, the themes they expand on, the storyline. It's such a beautiful one, a compelling one as well. The one that keeps you head bound to your chair until the last page has been read. Quite beautifully. Thank you very much for sharing. And just in case we have some viewers who are currently watching this interview, I would love to get a copy. I mean, pick up any copy of your book from Sky to Riverwind, to Line Series, at anyone actually. On what platforms are they available on for purchase?
Well, I do write on medium.com. Most of my stuff on medium.com is more or less essay-esque
Yeah.
because when I got started writing, I
Oh,
was
makes
actually
sense.
writing for other people who were
Oh,
creating magazines in
oh,
medium.com. But
interesting.
then they kind of all ran out of funds. So then I just started doing it myself. But you can get my books, of course, through Amazon.
Mm.
I don't know if you guys have Barnes and Noble,
Yeah,
but
we
I
do.
don't know. But Amazon, you have the full slate of those. And who knows? Now I pretty much have a publisher. I'm with Reader's Magnet,
Oh,
and Reader's Magnet has a they have like a full gamut of most of my stuff, not the history books
oh,
especially, but they
oh.
do have all the other books. They do have the World War II book as well, as we're
Mm.
starting to get into that a little bit.
Wow. That's a beautiful one, actually. Thank you for mentioning. And I left a link in the description part of this interview where interested viewers can get a copy of June Alex Reynolds books directly on Amazon and Barnes& and Nobles on our website and also on other platforms. I also left a link to June's social media pages for possible followings. So thank you so much, June, for sitting down with me across the ocean, across continents to sit down virtue of technology and Zoom connection to have this lovely, beautiful conversation with you around your amazing body of literature work. I must say thank you very much for coming on. This was really impressive.
You're really welcome, Peter. I hope to meet you in the flesh someday.
That'll be
That would
fun.
be great. Yeah,
Absolutely.
we'll be we can be bibliophiles together.
Oh, that would be great, actually. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I've always wanted to visit the United States. I'm hoping I'll be able to do that next year. There's a trunkload of people I like to visit. One of which is my friend that live in San Diego, the author of the Pot Fire Not from the Sky. And I was like, yeah, I would love to come to America someday and, schedule some meeting and do some physical interviews. That'd be fun, actually. Yeah.
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 Yeah, so, keep in touch with me and
Absolutely, I
um,
will.
we can if you uh come to San Diego,
Yeah.
drive north up the coast and I'm here.
That's a lovely one, actually. It's great. Thank you.